good spot?
Yo.
Woo!
Hey.
The sexy bitch in the middle of these sexy bitches.
Yeah.
Man in the middle.
Man also in the mirror.
Manifestation time.
That's right. So you guys have joined us before. For Anna and I have done like a magical tea time. Well, this magical manifestation mansion that you know I have has up leveled to a whole massive degree by this being coming into this space today.
Oh, thanks, hon. Thanks, hon.
Galactic frequency.
Thanks, hon.
Love it.
They've already created an incredible vortex here.
Yeah.
I mean, the field's amazing.
Yeah.
These women are incredible. There's something really monumental that's coming through this space, and you can just feel it's palpable. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
and we set an intention for, we're still actually going to do a lot of grid activating and crystalline stuff and being able to make this place just a vortex, and the downloads that I've had recently about literally creating a mothership activator here that transmutes to our clients and the way that we're taking this out. And then this guy shows up today, and we're talking about doing something extremely magical here that will take not only the space through the roof of vortex ability, yet what we're co-creating or looking at in a, you know, magnifying together is just fucking epic.
We have, you know, there's probably a lot of transformational leaders out there that follow you. I imagine that that's like a big part of your tribe. And transformational leaders, I think that they're always creating some kind of experience. You know, maybe they're creating a live event, maybe they're creating a program, maybe they're bringing friends together for a dinner party. But I think as we start to amplify our consciousness, amplify our awareness, we start to realize what creates a resonant and coherent field.
Yes.
And then how to amplify the resonant coherent field we're creating. And one of the things that what's been really cool to get feedback on is that, like, whether it's a seminar that I'm producing or whether it's an event that I'm creating, I've gotten really good at knowing how to create that coherent field. But then, you know, like anything else, it's like oh, if I can do it, why not turn up the volume and really let it go, you know?
Like the things that come through today that just have up leveling.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
It's one thing to just like listen to your music on low. It's another thing to like get the bass going and feel it, you know?
Totally.
And I think that that's what we're starting to really get at with fields and homes and spaces. And we activated our house to be a really powerful portal, and it started manifesting magical people like out of the ethers. Exactly.
They feel the energy and they get drawn to it, just like a magnet. Just like those who are watching us, those who are following us can come into different events. They feel that magnetic resonance, and that's what we're creating here with you.
Yeah, so I'll give a little backdrop to this, and that even that as you've heard conversations lately, obviously since Anna came into my space, even in Europe, and we're talking about these different DNA activations, you know, aligning crystalline consciousness and magnifying all your multidimensional capabilities and all this type of stuff, how even as we're having these conversations that most people have, they're like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I've never heard these words. This language has never existed.
Yeah, totally.
Exactly. It's like I keep getting people saying, like, can you explain this? And I'm like, you know what? The language to it hasn't existed. It's kind of the science behind magic. And you know, Hebs, you know, highly evolved beings, all these things. And as I'm speaking it now, people are like, I don't know what's happening, but I feel it in my body. I feel this call, this activation within my body, which is actually just this remembrance of what has always been there. We're activating the dormant DNA, and there's ways that we can bring this. So it started in as I've gone into this discovery, as obviously I continue to evolve into the greatest version of myself, or the greatest remembrance of my truth and my capabilities. You know, Amateo just recently came into my presence and awareness too, and the genius that he is in the galactic space that he offers and his understanding, and you know, we could go into a whole line of story.
There's a lot.
Yeah,
there's a galactic field.
Yes. Yeah. So Amateo did this amazing thing recently, and I was just like, oh my God, I love this guy, and I want to understand more of and support the space, or understand more of what he's actually, how he's experiencing it, and what other frequencies of knowledge and understanding we bring together that again bring this unity consciousness and this oneness together, that we can transmute this. As we're talking about, I literally see like $100 million deals with high-level corporations, and what I'm going to be moving into with bringing this to the masses to also evolve and understand, you know, like you talked about, like massive corporations actually having Galactic Council and understanding of how you download the programs and the things and the frequencies and all these things to go, this is what's available to us, the knowledge that's available to us that we didn't know was there, and this is how easy and accessible it is. This is why we're doing the remembrance and the things in Dominator in Europe, is because it's there for you. You just haven't known that it's there to access and become, you know, activate that dormancy. So I started seeing what you were doing.
Totally.
And I was just like badass, and I knew we got to connect, and I actually just recently saw that he was tuning into being able to do this experience again with a few individuals and like really go into this space, right?
Yep.
And I messaged you as like, Amateo, like I totally want to be a part of that. I knew I did before, and yet with us traveling all summer, I was like, I'm not sure when this is gonna happen, and I just saw this vision of him doing it here in my manifestation mansion.
Yeah.
And so we created today that he was just gonna come by, and we got to like drop in.
We had no expectation. We were just gonna super jam.
Yeah.
And connect because we're just in the forging part of our
Our
co-creation.
life is just fucking flowing, effortless, and ease. And it's,
so
see, this is the
good.
play.
It's so
this is
good.
creation energy. We're just like dancing and we're playing, and
Yeah.
as
You
we
do
got
this
to
and I
dance
do
and
that,
play,
and it's like we're 5 years old again, but with all of the magic and divine knowledge, so that we can really facilitate our abilities and gifts for your activation and evolution.
yeah,
Well,
totally.
and,
So
like,
let
since-
you go off of what happened from there.
Yeah. So since back in the day, there have been some primary metaphysical teachers on the planet that have been serving as the wisdom bearers for cultural leaders and oligarchies and all of this stuff. If you go back to like Madame Blavatsky, who in the 1920s in Russia was doing seances with leaders and started to get cast out of countries because of the fact that she was pulling through information for people and
Powerful, magical, esoteric information.
Powerful.
Yeah, and
Sacred
it scared
codes,
people.
etc. Yeah.
Exactly, it did fully, and you can imagine that fucking freaks people out now.
Yeah.
If you can imagine 1920s, a bunch of tuck shirts, sipping tea, it was a lot for them.
Spinning crystals.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
and,
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we see that there's a combination of something that is this ancient tradition to something that's very new, and so one of the things that I've been really passionate about for a very long time is being able to go, all right, let's just look at all of the cohesive, collective data, intelligence, wisdom that has been cross-corroborated through multiple metaphysical lineages over the years. And if we were to look at that, we were to compound that into a system and to be able to understand a context of what's actually going on, something that's fundamental, something that's actual, something that now has scientific relevancy.
Yeah.
We've got something that is taking the old and combining it with the new and delivering it in this whole new way. And so, what we created was a workshop series, which we're now condensing into a retreat, that is a place to go, cool. We want to give you the full metaphysical context and framework so that you actually know how to navigate within this hyperspace 5D awareness and beyond.
What we're even experiencing, which is 60 and up for the beings that are already there.
Totally, and to reorient your life path with that too.
So it aligns, and you can actually magnify it and be ease and grace, not feeling like out of like it's in conjunction of like the world's in 3D and I don't know how to operate in this D.
Totally, and it's even worth saying that like one of the things that I'm really big on is people getting into the idea of ascension or spirituality, they start to get into this idea that it's like about us all like go standing at this.
Hey baby, we're doing a video real quick, okay? It's a Facebook Live. Say hi. Hi. Yeah, hi.
I love it.
Hey mom, what are you and your babes doing up there on the balcony?
Exactly.
Catching up the sunset.
That's right.
We're just literally catching the sunset.
Rifted, yeah.
This is so
Sharing
fucking
some
awesome. Our life
Sun
is.
gazing, Facebook living.
Awesome. Enjoy it, okay? Cool. I'll give you hugs and loves in a sec,
Sweet
okay?
little dudes, man.
So good.
Love you.
Right?
So good.
Okay, love you. You
The
can
angel
listen in from
babies
down
of the
there.
manifestation.
Mwah. Yes.
Talk about little galactic beings.
I know.
These
They're-
My
children
beings are
They're
coming
really
in.
great,
Wow.
Marci. I really
Yeah.
like them.
I-
There's so much love. They're cool. It's unique where you get to like I went and just like sparked up a conversation with them,
Yeah.
and there's no like I'm an adult, you're a kid, or there's no
They come from such a place of exchange and just like
Equality
I'm being
and
seen and you're being seen
yeah.
and hey, who are you and cool, what do we get to connect with?
totally.
Yeah, my kids
And that's just like
beautiful.
refreshing. It's
Yeah.
just refreshing. You can kick it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can kick it.
Yeah, Skylar's
Yeah, exactly.
Skylar's going to be in all of Colombia with us, and then he's going to be in half of Europe with
That's gonna
us.
be big.
Yeah, he comes like both
That's
of them
gonna be
did.
big.
Both of them came 2 years ago to the last couple days of my badass event, and then the three of us traveled for like 10 days, and then we went back to the jungle.
Wow.
And then this last time, Sky came down and did 2 days, ending with my peeps, and then we
Wow.
went, and they're all like, yeah, they're super cool and tight with my
That's
kids. Yeah,
great.
they're epic,
That's
awesome.
awesome.
So-
I mean, that's really integral. You know, that's like how to integrate it all.
Oh, and it's part of the unique consciousness too, is really bringing in and not having that separation of age or sex or culture or creed or anything, right? And so in having, as you call them, your growth partners, right? These beautiful conscious beings.
They're also my
that-
mentors. and-
Absolutely.
Totally.
So,
For sure.
yeah.
Yeah, right. There's no better learning than having children.
I know. That's why I'm so evolved.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I got babies
That'll
on the
do
way.
it.
I'm like, just waiting for my next level, you know?
Until then, you can play with mine.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm like timing when my like, oh cool, like the quantum leap of the twins I'll be having in like 2018, because it'll be happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what I was saying before is that basically there's this thing that's been going on for a long time, and we're bringing it into a modern context, and I think that, you know, what you bring really cool, Marci, is when I've said this to other people, but I don't know if you've heard this come back to you full circle. I always say that you're a super rapid adopter and adapter.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Adapter.
You adopt things so quickly, and it's like
Yeah.
boom, 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 I'm here. But then you also adapt to your environment, to your situation, to your information, to your wisdom, to your upgrades, and that's really cool to see that level of acceleration. Yeah.
Absolutely, and just to see the evolution and the ascension, and from meeting in Europe and taking you
January,
to Dominher and really up-leveling that whole experience and your human integration of it is partly was why we're doing all of this, right? It's like it's that
the
up
next
level
level of
continues to
frequency
happen.
I've received from
cumulative.
opening up that then means I get to transmute it to the world, which means we get to all align to that and sharing
Yes.
that
Keep it
up level
coming.
together. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
being God's guinea pigs is not a
Yeah.
bad job,
Yeah,
you know?
no, it's good. Yeah.
It doesn't suck.
Leaders just go first. Right?
Kinda yummy.
Leaders always just go first, right?
Yeah.
It's not like
Yeah.
you're not here to follow. We're just we go first to experience it and then share what's actually available for you.
And then we take your hand, we hold you through.
And not everybody wants that, or is that in their design? You know, like I think that there's it's so sought after, but it comes with a big responsibility, and it's, you know, to be
For sure.
to be in the field of experimentation. You know, I've been doing that for a long time, but yeah, I mean, I think that we have this really cool thing going on where we're getting relevancy from multi-discipline industries,
Yes.
multi-back science, you know, flow state science,
Yeah.
to completely corroborate
Yeah.
that we have the ability to access higher levels of consciousness for practical purposes, to extract data, technology, and innovation to inform what we're doing.
Yeah.
So you mean like Einstein, Tesla, Edison, all the inventors of technologies used very similar systems and rituals and ceremonies to access this higher level of galactic awareness so that they could transmute the intuitive knowledge or the, you know, divine activation for the next level of our
Tesla
human.
was initiated in a mystery school. That's well documented.
Exactly.
He
I know.
he
So I brought
knew
him up.
to work with these beings because
Yep.
he knew that this is where the data was going to come from, and he even said that he was informed by the planet. He was channeling
the elementals
planet.
of the planet.
Yes.
How to utilize the planet as a power plant. Like
Yeah.
there's real.
He was just open to receiving it.
That's right.
You know, and the transmission from it. And even like you earlier today, like, I mean, your brain and your genius is epic and awesome. And even if you explain more of like what you do, when you were like wrapping up all this stuff, I'm like, this is so fucking cool. As you
Yeah.
talk like the metaphysics of it and everything else. And yet you're like, I started with plant medicines when I was 22.
Yeah.
Right? And like these things that open up our ability to receive and
Huge.
expand and do all this. And this is what we're talking about, so that this becomes what you know is the norm, or like what is
Yeah.
actually available, that we transmute the mutation of
Totally.
ourselves and humanity to this frequency where you thought this was batshit crazy. Well, batshit crazy is where you want to go. You know? Because it was Mark Twain that said, when you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect, motherfuckers. So like if we're
Right.
norm is broke ass mindset. Norm is struggle. Norm is sacrifice. What we're saying that it's available to us is like how we're meant to operate in these technologies that are available and this understanding that's available. It's just like it's so fucking easily. And
There's some kind of joke in there around the woo woo being whoop whoop. There's something there. Yes.
Maybe share a little bit about what, like, you know, even as you design this last workshop, and as we're looking at this 4-day experience, like, what does that entail for you? Like,
okay, cool. So.
Gavin's
we have another Facebook Liver.
He's totally Facebook bombing right now.
That's right. Goofy faces, please.
You should show them your shirt too. Wisdom.
Use it. Please.
Pineal gland open.
Right?
Well, you know, let me break down one piece of context, and then I'll get into the structure and flow of what this container is. One piece of context is, obviously, since we've been born, we have been inundated and bombarded by an onslaught of marketing, culture, ideas. There was a psychological research paper that was done that said they could trace the predominant relationship patterns that people were expressing in modern day relationships to the same social dynamics that could be studied out of sitcoms of the eras they grew up in.
Absolutely.
Wow. Yep. Of course.
Think about that.
They saw.
Our
Subliminal
relationship.
Married with children.
Yeah, exactly. That's the worst. Like, who wants that? You know.
Well, that's what they learn is the norm.
Simpsons
Is like come home and like the regular, the
Friends.
norm, and annoyed,
Right.
and you got it.
Exactly.
Then
So
you build your identity around these falsehoods of characters that don't even exist.
Yeah.
that's right.
And not in your true soul consciousness either.
You just want to say hi and be on camera. Show
Yeah,
your
come
cute.
kick it.
Come show your cute face, and then we're just letting. We're spinning off on all of our awesomeness. Show your cute face.
Yeah. All
Okay,
right, well,
you can come hang out with us.
yeah, keep
listen.
hanging out.
Come on over here, buddy. You can sit up here with me.
Sweet Anna. He had date night with Anna last night, as I had date night with Sky, or with with
Scoot him in.
Sky
Are we
Lucky
in the
guys.
camera? We'll have to like scoot in this way.
Yeah. Okay.
So like when you look at that, you realize, all right, underneath programming, conditioning, trauma, and all of these things that have been piled on as layers and filters of who we think we are and who we think we're not, is gotten in the way of who we actually are and what we're actually here for. And if
I
we're
love the way that you said that. Can we just like sit
Yeah.
and feel that for a second?
Hold
Like
that for a second.
repeat that if you can. Repeat what just came through.
Yep,
So,
I'm
yeah.
gonna show them the sunset while you're saying that.
Oh my
Okay.
god.
Because
Okay.
this is gonna be like, okay.
This is the view
Amateo,
from my
go.
balcony. Yeah, and our meditation spot. We've got a couple meditation spots on the hill where there's always. So the people that get to be here for this will get to have this epic
in
awesomeness.
person with
Yeah.
us, it's going to be amazing.
So while they're watching that beautiful view of the ocean and the sunset and the birdhouse, you were saying?
I was saying that the inundation of trauma, false beliefs, media, billboards, marketing, just the incoming data feed of there's $1 billion, $1 trillion industry that's all trying to do one thing, and that's grab your presence. That's it. That's it.
Distract you.
It's
They're trying to
one thing.
distract you.
Yeah,
It's one
you're
thing.
not actually present. You're distracted.
They're
from
distracted,
friends.
but they're trying to deter your awareness from what you're on to their thing.
Red squirrel, shiny, shiny, look over here.
Exactly. And we can't knock that, you know, because what else are you supposed to do in such a fast-moving world than try to grab people's attention to the best of our ability? But it's removed us from who we actually are, from who we think we are, and given us a false sense of what we are and what we're not.
Yeah, beautiful.
And that's super significant. So if we're to just take that, we're to work on that, okay, cool. If we're going to adjust that, the way that we have to adjust that is we have to give you a completely different context for who you are, and a completely different context with your place within the universe. That's the first part of what this retreat event is, called Access Granted. We give you a metaphysical master course. It's really a crash course where we go through an accelerated context of your understanding of what this is around us. Once we can have the understanding
It's
of
almost
all
like
of the
the
levels,
metaphysical understanding, instead of us like what I've broken down for people is like we just have when we're just trying to connect the mindset, we're still fucking ourselves over because we're not connecting the dots of our operating systems.
That's right.
From like integrating the feeling system and our language system and our perception system.
I love
And although that is still just the energetic molecule or the actual thing that we brought together in the illusion, you're actually taking it to the level of the metaphysical behind that.
That's behind
which a
that.
lot of times people get to go do the plant-based medicines and things to actually go, oh, I can see, I can actually attune in to my own psyche.
That's right.
And connect to the universe and see what's really there that I didn't see before because I only saw this illusion reality, which again we're saying, oh, it came from the sitcoms you watched and the, you know, the programming from your parents and everything pre-7. You're taking them behind that to actually know how to construct that.
I love that. It like brought the idea to my mind, just you saying that like, how do you expect to fully optimize the operating system if you don't get the tutorial?
Yes.
Right.
How?
Yeah.
You need a guidebook.
Yeah, you need the guidebook.
Yeah.
You need to be able to be walked through the actual mechanics of things and how it works energetically. You know, energy comes first. E equals MC squared. Einstein knew that. Energy is always first. So we have to know the science behind the energy.
And energy never lies.
That's right. It just is. It just is. So
Pretty direct.
Yeah, it's very direct. So once we open you up to this big context, now we have to help entrain you to entrain your consciousness of how to navigate within
How to communicate, how to receive, how to, right? It's a whole new language of frequency and energy in this higher level awareness, and especially working with the galactic frequencies that you're going to be teaching everyone.
That's right.
It's a whole nother language. I mean, you thought Japanese was...
It's a frequency they've never seen. It's a language they've never heard. That's why even all of this is a language that people are like, what are you talking about? I don't necessarily have context.
What do you mean my
to
body
understand.
speaks to me? What do you mean I
or
feel
DNA
it?
activation and what that is and all this. So yes.
Yeah, I mean, and so
alignments.
so cool. Now we give you a full set of radio stations, all right, that you can tune into.
Open dial.
Open dial. That's right. Now it's time to refine, optimize, and train the instrument, which is
To the
you.
micro degree.
To the micro degree, so that you can have precision to navigate in that space. And so then we get into instrumentation, which is really exciting. To how do you access and open up yourself as an instrument? That's a big part of the training. And I'm a trans channel. I channel for some this is gonna sound very like obvious. For some it's gonna sound a little far out there. But I'm a trans channel for an extraterrestrial being. This wasn't something that
highly evolving ahead.
Yeah,
Right?
it's just in the future.
Yes.
Yeah, it's in the future. They're advanced. It's just the way it is. This wasn't something that I'm like trying to call upon it or divinate it. This is something where I do this technique and it's there. There's nothing else.
And it's not you, it's coming through you.
It's coming through me. It's actually connected to me.
Yeah.
It's a relative of mine.
Yeah.
And we're genetically connected, and so that's part of why it works. And I explore that in the conversation because most people, when they start to open up into mediumship or channeling, they start to just grab anything in the space, and it can be really tricky.
Yeah.
Well, and they could access other beings too that aren't in the highest light.
That's right.
So there's,
etc.
again, this is all about precision, and there is a very specific ritual or a guidebook and way to access only the light beings of the highest consciousness and to really receive that and to know how to use that information for your highest good. So having the tools and techniques that I've been given through the angels, that you've been taught and learned and really honed in on how to specifically activate that for individuals to learn. I mean, that's such an amazing gift for people to really know that's out there, right? It's like, you get to be a Jedi now.
Yeah. Well, it actually reminds me of a way that maybe people can understand it a little bit more. As it reminds me of, like, as we talk about even like in this consciousness, when we're trying to implement the ways that we create something different, and we've only been taught like what I always call surface bullshit self-empowerment, right? Like it's so even if you're like, I'm receiving more love, and yet your internal representation of love is abuse, it's settle, it's sacrifice, it's abandonment, whatever it is. Even if you call in more love and you're asking for the frequency of love, you're asking for a shitty ass frequency of love, and yet you probably have never actually aligned to or felt the divine alignment or the frequency of divine love, because from the time you were born, literally you started, even in your feeling body, you're taking on emotions and there's perceptions and there's stories and all these things.
OPE, baby.
So there's never actually been that, how do I receive the clear frequency that I've never even known was there, and that's literally what you're kind of bringing about.
Because then cool, now we give you an understanding of the space. Now we help you refine your instrumentation in the space. Now we're going to go, what are you going to use this for? How are you going to use this access into purpose, so we're really about being able to, we call it access. So we're calling it access granted because you're gaining spiritual, metaphysical, multidimensional access. But I said earlier that like I'm not in the business of extending spiritual grace periods where you get like an activation and then you can just be a fairy that eats coconuts for the rest of your life and not make a difference in the world. That's not what this is about.
Yeah.
That's not. I'm sorry. Like this is you come here to be more here. You come here to bring the 5D into this reality. And then that's what we're helping people in train is to condition this new element of higher energetic operate in terms of their life in this way, and then let's download these technologies for actual implement-oriented purposes. And
that's why we're here, and we need it now more than ever. There's a reason
Absolutely
why we're
right.
all here at this time on this planet for the higher ascension and evolution of all humanity. So if you're going to step up and want to gain access to these higher fields, and that comes with a responsibility, right? That's
and this isn't a knock, but this is just an awareness. There's a lot of like spiritual channels and energy that when people connect with them, they end up just receiving these kind of diluted, homogenized messages.
Right.
We get that everything's love. We get that, and they're valuable lessons. They're the kind of spiritual cliches that we could all celebrate for the rest of eternity, and it's good. It's goodness, but there's a level at which these skills have to come into much more applicable refinement and application in this planet, and that's what we're working on doing. We call it as much a workshop series or retreat as we do a think tank. We really consider this a galactic think tank for global leaders on the cutting edge of evolution, consciousness, entrepreneurship, business, who are looking to implement these global systems and going, we need a new level of creativity and novelty
and consciousness
and divine
to actually
solutions.
create the solutions and the result-oriented things that are changing the frequency and what we really want.
That's exactly right.
Totally.
Right.
That's right.
Bringing harmony back to what we know in our to be the truth of love. Right.
That's right. And so this whole thing is about being able to literally create a 5D reality from having a whole bunch of ambassadors who are ready to embody that energetic and then start to lead with it and love with it and receive and create from it, and be it. And so I was like, Marci was like, man, I've been hearing about this thing and I wanted to talk to you about it, and it was like super exciting. And then I was like, hey, we just had this like shift in our own life plans. And she was like, actually, I kind of saw it happening at my house. And I was like, I was gonna ask that, but that's kind of a big ask. So
you right away were like, the first thing you said was you said I did too.
Yeah, I
did.
did.
Of course you did,
Which
because
I did.
I received the vision and so did you, and then it all showed up like we were gonna hang out, and you're like, oh, of course,
That's
like
so
I didn't,
perfect.
you didn't have to, because I was like, I saw it at my house.
Exactly.
We're already here.
And I was like, I did too. So and so we're gonna be doing.
In fact, it's already happened.
That's right. If you've been here,
You're like, wait a minute, this looks very familiar.
Totally. So we're going to be doing a rapid accelerator journey of being able to get through this content and training and a massive upgrade. It's something special. It changed everyone's lives. Yeah, please.
And leading to that is that because people are always asking me, well, what am I going to change? What's going to change in me that I can carry forward? How am I going to be different? How's this going to benefit me in my life as I know it now until I really step into this higher galactic awareness? Because integration takes some time, right?
Yeah.
So
Depending on your perception of it.
Well, exactly. Your perception, your injury. It's like, well, and what is time really? But we can get into that.
I was gonna say, that's a whole other. We can go. I just creating clarity. That's a whole other level.
Yeah, but I'm also, talking to people that are watching this, not understanding our language completely, but saying, okay, how is this going to affect me? How am I going to really embrace this in my life and my relationships, my work, my health for myself, my awareness, my connection to universe and love itself, right? So maybe you can share a little bit about that. So
that's great. I mean, we've experienced a varying level of result that's been as dramatic as I'm afraid of God, and now I'm a loving vessel of God.
Yeah, within like a week, you said.
Yeah, within like a week, like within one class.
That's why I say there's no such thing as time and parameters when you actually receive the level of the root and the alignment and those things that we just haven't had access to.
Yeah.
We're not playing in this dinky bullshit game of surface mentality of processes and time and what it has to look like, etc. It just is. And
instant omnipresence.
Yeah.
Always.
It is and it's done.
And and it's one thing to go, okay, cool, this is the structure of metaphysical mechanics, and now I'm going to go into a channeling state and I'm going to access that data. It alters something for people. I mean, And even for that guy, like it brought just one level deeper of integration of belief and understanding of the framework of things, and now there's permission to play.
Yep.
And so we're seeing a deeper level of belief, a greater level of creativity, enhanced manifestation in people's lives of all sorts of things. We've seen chronic illnesses heal throughout the years. We've seen unhealthy relationships gracefully fall away. We've seen love be manifested from this work. We've seen, and it's just been really beautiful. We've had a lot of people who were kind of sitting on their hands with creative projects and visions and things that they wanted to create, that going through this training and this experience are now out in the world doing it. They're doing it.
It comes up and out.
Yes, it comes up and out. And there's an empowerment there because you trust it and you know how to be guided. And if you're needing data, you know how to get that data and move forward with it. Utilize it.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Awesome.
Right.
So what we're actually looking at, and we decided we looked at our calendar because we were traveling all summer, and we looked at, and this being a new thing where he literally can take people through this whole thing for 4 days straight. So what we're looking at is not only allowing this to be at the Magical Manifestation Mansion, yet it being very, so the 4 days and then having a day of VIPs so there's a certain amount of people that will get to stay here with all of us. And then there's a certain amount of people that will get to actually have a VIP day where it's integration with what Anna does, what I do, aligning all of these things and just all the badassery that Amateo brings to this. So, I think the next thing is just like, message us if you have like a massive draw to this.
And I'll throw.
I'm
the,
sure you have.
I'll throw the
you
link.
actually have a link. Yes,
I'll throw the link into the comments for this so that people can see it. I'm just gonna adjust the dates in tonight, and then I'll throw in the link so people can grab that. Feel free to send me a message personally on Facebook. I'm very responsive there. Amateo Raw, and like. This is a really outstanding experience.
This is fucking badass. I mean, it's like it just keeps getting greater and greater. The stuff that we're doing in Europe and Colombia, all these things that we're creating access.
All these other activations and the divine beings that we bring into you to share the abundance.
Well, it's like creating a way that the masses, everyone can have access to now this upgrade and these upgrades, right? There's ways that you can participate in that. It's a matter of giving yourself permission and like feeling this call and feeling this frequency, be like, why the fuck would I want to make it so hard and struggle like the rest of humanity? And why not when I actually understand all the metaphysics of it and what's there, and it's like you said, like the actual book, like the actual understanding of how to utilize this and the pieces that we bring together on it. So this was something that I knew I felt something around. And again, this is like, oh, what am I feeling? And like we as we sat and we played, all of a sudden this whole thing evolved. I'm like, yep, that feels fucking awesome.
Yeah, it feels
we
really
totally
good.
came to like a fuck yes, like yes, this feels amazing. So the fact that we could throw it together so soon and be able to do it and do it here, and so anybody that's
in what 3 hours?
I know, literally.
We're just hanging, we're having tea, and sharing the little meditation, bed up there under the, ball is curling up. We're like, yeah, this is so much fun. So
and done.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
so,
right?
Come join us in our Galactic Accelerator and learn. We're all growing together. This is an experimental container. This isn't a container that's fixed. This isn't a we're going to transmit to you or I'm going to transmit to you. This is you're going to come in and go through an experimental activation in which we're going to be harnessing and opening up abilities. I'm probably going to I got to check with her schedule and make sure it works, but we'll probably have my dear friend and one of the most talented mediumship openers in the world, Catherine Bird, here to help everyone do some mediumship opening practices. She's so good at it. So it's a time for you to experiment with your consciousness, open up, and it's gonna be a journey of a lifetime. Come kick it. Come get on the wave with us.
Yeah, the Magical Manifestation Mansion with some magical beings of light and galactic awesomeness. So I mean, it just keeps getting greater and greater. So awesome, love
Thanks,
you guys.
Marci. This is great.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I love you so much.
This is great. I love you too. It's just so good to be in a place where you can go, we meet each other, now let's create.
And we already knew. We already met each other before. We were already we're already aligned. Like when we get to actually physically hang,
I know.
We are, and obviously we're already, astral traveling and metaphysically conversating because I'm like, oh, I see it at my house. And you're like, oh, so do I do.
Totally.
Right?
That's how it works.
That's how easy it is.
That's
back and forth.
It was already done. Gavin, you have anything you want to say to our peeps?
Any final words?
The beautiful sunset. We should actually
love you.
check that out. Boom. That's our view right now. Gorgeous.
It just went pink and purple.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. It's awesome.
It's
Right?
gorgeous.
Yeah, awesome.
Bye.
Bye. That's perfect.
Yeah, it's
Lock it
perfect.
down with the bye. Love you guys.
Bye.
Love you.
Take care.